Before I found Christ, I was basically seeking, and that was for many years. I'm 76 now. I found Christ last year. I wasn't raised with it, and so I went in all directions. I didn't know Scripture at all. I also had gone through a very troubling time when my first husband committed suicide. That threw me into a depression. I had just remarried. My first husband and I had divorced. I had just remarried. In fact, I had just returned from my honeymoon that day. My new husband was taking us to a new city, new friends, new everything. I didn't have the support system that I needed, and he did not want to deal with what I was going through. He didn't know how to deal with it. Who does? I certainly didn't. He was a drinker, and I became a drinker with him. After 23 years of marriage, wearing a mask, raising my children, living with a man who didn't communicate with me, I decided to go. And God answered my prayer when I finally learned how to pray. Oh, I was in my 60s then. I learned how to pray. My brother gave me a book by Marianne Williamson on prayer. And I read it, and I began asking God to give me a good marriage. And this is hard. A man I could respect, and a man who would cherish me. I got it. I am still married to this man, and I will always be married to this man. I continued pursuing religious thought. My academic background is in Hinduism and world religions, especially, but Hinduism. And it just didn't feel right. I didn't fill my soul. There was something missing. And so I finally, after I was married to Will, went to a New Thought church. And it felt comfortable. It was what I knew. I went through cancer about 10 years ago. And that was about a 4-year trip. I survived it for a purpose. I didn't realize that at the time. I still hadn't found Christ. I had God in my life, but God was the universe, and we were part of the universe, so we were God too. That's what you're hearing today in our culture. That's New Thought. I was working with a repertory theater that was doing a production here at Grace. And Pastor Wayne was a member of our cast. I met him, I liked him, and I thought, I'm going to come see him. I want to see what he has to say. And I did, and I came back. And then I went to Pastor Guy one day, or I saw him, I met Pastor Guy one day. After a service, he introduced himself, and I said, I'd like to talk with someone. I didn't know what I was going to ask. I didn't know what the end would be, but I had never approached a clergyman before. Fear, snobbery, I don't know what it was. But we sat for over an hour and talked, and he defined for me what it was that I was believing in and that this was the other way. This was the way, as it turned out. And I went home with books. I'd been told to read scripture, and I started doing that, which I'd never done before. And I walked into my husband one day and I said, I give up. I'm going to be a Christian. I guess that's when I was saved. I don't know. I think God was with me all the way through. But I needed to find Christ. And that was the day. I'm sure now that's it. And I asked to be baptized. I wanted to do the whole schmeal. I wanted to be fully committed. I'm saved from cancer. I'm saved from alcohol. I'm saved from smoking pot for many years, every day, addictions. My purpose, it turns out, was, first of all, to become a teacher. I taught in the barrios for years. I taught children who needed love. I was able to save my life doing that during those hard times. And now I'm one of the leaders of Celebrate Recovery. That's what God saved me for. He always has a purpose for us. I'm an old broad, but I'm still working for him.